In 2008, after an independent DNA lab found that one of the hairs collected from Joe's car matched Patty perfectly, it closed the door on every subsequent appeal because, well, think about it. What other evidence could overcome a perfect DNA match, especially when the courts were not taking the time to understand or consider Patty's defense, that the original crime scene hair was switched with exemplars taken directly from Patty's head? Even worse, court after court kept getting the facts of the forensic testing wrong, rendering opinions based on incorrect information that all of the physical evidence, including the cigarette butt, had been tested and matched Patty. This, despite her desperately trying to correct the record. Still, when you are in a post-conviction appellate posture, you look for everything and anything that could either be a door to a new appeal, strengthen existing issues, be ammunition in case you're able to get the defendant a new trial, or be convincing enough to make a district attorney rethink their posture on a case. You would think, given the mountains of documents and evidence uncovered with time in this case, that there wouldn't be more to find. But there is always more to find. And time is always on the side of the defendant, no matter how hard the state fights back. Hi and welcome to Undisclosed. I'm Rabia Chaudhry. I'm an attorney and author, and I'm here with my colleague, Colin Miller.
Hi, this is Colin Miller. I'm a professor at the University of South Carolina School of Law, and I blog at Evidence Croft Blog. If you examine the investigation in this case superficially, it might appear like the police and the investigators did a really thorough job. Recall back to our first couple of episodes in this series. They canvassed the Kachernak neighborhood, interviewed dozens upon dozens of people, dug into Andy's contacts and finances and background, and then, once the bodies were found, the authorities seemed to really drill down into the investigation, search for leads, and requested a wide array of forensic testing. If you don't look too closely at the details, the case file looks pretty impressive. But of course, the devil always lies in the details. For example, plenty of forensic testing was done, but the evidence was mishandled and contaminated, rendering it virtually useless. The police had so many leads, but sometimes they failed to run them down. Then there was the evidence that they ignored or buried, like Walter Trotman and Patty's alibis. Some of this, like the way that Dr. Jensen handled the evidence, was sheer incompetence. But some of it was clearly misconduct, which gives rise to a question in the minds of many, and one we even addressed in last week's addendum. Why would the authorities go after Patty so hard to the exclusion of all other suspects? So hard that even years later, they were still committed to keeping her in prison.
Not long ago, our executive producer Mithal and I drove down to North Carolina to find one specific person, Fonda Eggers, the woman who surveyed Patty on the week that Joe and Alex disappeared. There was one thing in particular I wanted to ask Eggers. Why, when she testified at Patty's trial, didn't the surveillance come up? Was she told in advance by anybody that she either wouldn't be asked about it, or was she told not to mention it if asked? Did she know if the prosecutor knew about it? At the heart of this inquiry was trying to understand exactly where in the chain of information Patty's perfect alibi, Fonda Eggers, was buried. We had a couple of leads on where she was living, and when we got to the address that seemed to be her most recent, we found the home completely abandoned. Just to make sure we weren't at the wrong place, we went next door and knocked. A very nice gentleman came out, and we asked him if he knew Fonda Eggers. Sure, he said. She lived next door until just a few months ago. No idea where she was now, though. We thanked him, and he went back in the house. I let Jennifer Leahy, our researcher, know that we had struck out on that address, and her first reaction was, "Oh, How odd that Eggers moved out right around the time this podcast season launched. Could that be related? Nah, I thought that seemed like a stretch. We drove off to check out another few addresses, and about 10 minutes later, Jen messaged back with another address, Fonda's daughter's address. We headed there and realized it was the house next door to the first abandoned house. The same house that the very nice gentleman had come out of to tell us that Fonda had moved, and he had no idea where. This was definitely not a good sign.
She's not gonna talk to me. Now he's gonna come out with a gun. It's the kids again. Looking through plastic.
Can I help you?
Hi, I'm sorry. I'm looking for...
That's me.
Okay, are you related to Fonda Eggers?
You know that I am.
Okay, I'm looking...
Hear about Pat Rorrer?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, not interested?
I just have a couple of questions for you.
I'm not talking to you.
No,
and
you don't have to
she's
talk to me.
not talking to you either.
Can I please just get...
No.
I just have one question about her trial testimony.
Nope. She's not going to talk to you. She's not talked to you when you've called.
Oh, she got my calls?
She got calls from someone. So,
Oh, I don't know. Did I leave a number? I thought
Rabia.
Rabia, yes, I'm
that
Rabia.
was you. So, please
drove
leave us
down
alone.
from DC.
I get that, but please leave us alone. This has been 32 years.
I know.
And all she did was talk about
She did the
horses.
right thing. She did the right
I
thing.
know she did.
I just have a quick question. A question about her
I
testimony.
understand that, but she is done with this. She's done.
But the thing is, Patty is still in prison.
I know Patty's in prison.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's done with this.
I forgot. We bought some cookies for you. We left them in the car. Would you like the cookies at least for your kids? Can you get the cookies, Vito, please? We did. I'm sorry. I have one question. Please.
Nope.
Can I pass a question on to you and you can ask her? And if she wants to tell me, she can contact me.
You can, what is it?
Okay. Here, this is all I want to know. Because all I have is her trial testimony, and then I have a statement she gave to a reporter years later. And all I want to know is, at trial, why she was not asked about the surveillance that she did.
Okay. I'll let her know.
That's all I want to know.
If she calls you back, she calls you back. But please do not come to my house again.
Okay. I didn't know that we just found your number.
I've got big dogs and autistic children. I don't want people just...
No, I understand. This is a risk we always have to take when we do this. And look, I'm not doing this. Patty doesn't pay me a dime. This is all pro bono work. So we're just doing this out of trying to help somebody that we think deserves a little bit of help. But that's the only question I have, is this: why wasn't she... It's weird that she testified, but question wasn't asked, and that's all I want to know, is why she wasn't asked that, if she knows why she wasn't asked that. Anyhow, we bought you cookies and I forgot.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Please ask her to change her mind.
I'll ask,
It
but
could
it's
help
not...
Patty
I know,
come out.
but it's not going to happen. I'll ask, but it's not going to happen. Just go ahead and...
She could be Patty's only chance at
It's
getting
not
another
gonna
trial.
happen. It's not going to happen. So take that as your final answer. It is not going to happen.
Okay. She has my number, though.
Yep.
Okay. Can I leave an email address?
Can you write it down?
Yeah, I can write it
me?
down for me. All right, for you. Yes, you have it handwriting. Yeah, can you just write it down here and then
Yeah,
a
rip the
second.
page off.
Rip a page. It's just... Wait, do you want to do undisclosed? No, we'll do my personal one right here.
As far as we know, the last time anyone had spoken to Fonda Eggers was when Margaret Sneary interviewed her in 2002, 24 years ago. Given the length of time, her reaction and the reaction of her daughter seemed, over the top. It wasn't like anybody, at least not from the defense side, had been harassing her all these years. Even when Tammy Mal wrote her book about the case, she never reached out to Eggers. Private investigator Joe Alertia, who you heard from in the last episode, never reached out to Eggers. We were, I believe, the first folks to do so after decades. I remembered Baltimore prosecutor Kevin Urich and how, even years and decades after Adnan's conviction, he continued to interfere in the case. Even after he retired and moved to another county, he kept in touch with Jay Wiles, probably to keep him in check and keep him scared of telling the truth. What if the reason Fonda Eggers had such a strong reaction to us was because she had been harassed over the years to keep her mouth shut? She still lived in the same area as all the authorities involved in the case. What if, when this season began, she was told we might come looking for her and she literally cleared out her house and moved next door? Anything's possible, especially if there are state actors still invested in the case 34 years later.
The email we received on July 19th, 2026 read as follows. I just saw your podcast in the Patricia Rorrer case. I was the assistant district attorney who prosecuted that case, wondering whether or not you were satisfied and have made up your mind, or whether you'd want to speak to me concerning some of the many inaccuracies I noted on the podcast. Thank you. The email was signed, of course, but we won't say by who. The author shall remain unnamed in this series, as he has been so far. That's because over the course of 3 decades, he has relentlessly inserted himself into multiple attempts to get Patricia Rorrer justice in the courts and the media, even trying to thwart those attempts, and also because he's inexplicably litigious regarding this case. For instance, this might be the first time we've come across a case where a prosecutor sued a defendant's attorney for, well, doing their job. In 2016, attorney Craig Neely re-entered the case. Remember, he had stopped representing Patty after the Cellmark Orchid Lab returned a positive match for her DNA against the hair collected in the car. But then, when Tammy Amal found the FBI report showing that the hair collected had no roots, he went back to court for Patty. His petition was focused on trying to prove that Patty's exemplars had been switched with the collected crime scene evidence hair, which of course is an inherent allegation of misconduct. That's also the inherent nature of all Brady claims, by the way, that a prosecutor knowingly hid or hindered the discovery of evidence that was favorable to the defendant and material to the question of guilt versus innocence. In this case, though, the prosecutor took the allegation in the petition, which was dismissed anyway, so seriously that he sued Craig Neely in civil court for defamation. First, though, he sent Neely a demand letter asking for an apology and a retraction of quote-unquote false statements. When Neely didn't respond, he sued him for false statements made in court and in the media. Neely's primary defense was that he was protecting his client's rights, which he was, but the prosecutor litigated the matter as if he'd been personally defamed. He demanded Neely's defense files and discovery and was granted them. He demanded answers about Neely's representation of Patty after she had filed a claim for ineffective assistance of counsel, treating the matter as if he had never seen such a thing happen before.
I am not going to lie, it took me a long time to get around to adulting when it came to my dental health. At one point, I went for, I kid you not, 6 years before going to the dentist to get my teeth checked up. I have changed all that around because I've learned about the importance of dental health and how it's related to so much of our other health. A ton of what you eat and drink, like coffee and tea and acidic foods, can really do long-term damage to your teeth. So I have leveled up my chewing gum routine with Loreen Co. Loreen Co is better for you chewing gum that uses the same mineral your teeth are made of to support daily enamel health. Loreen Co uses nanohydroxyapatite, the mineral that your enamel is actually made of, to strengthen your enamel and repair damage. And it comes in every flavor you can imagine: mint, cinnamon, bubblegum, and berry. They even have a really great fluoride-free toothpaste too. Loreen Co sent me the gum. I have every variety imaginable and mint, and I have had to fight my kids over them. We are all huge fans. They taste delicious. The flavors are good. The taste lasts for a long time. My teeth look whiter. My mouth feels fresh. And you know, the older I get, the more sensitive to hot and cold I get. But after chewing this gum for the last few weeks, I really think the sensitivity has gotten better. I keep Loreen Co in my purse, on my kitchen counter, in my car. I chew it after every single meal. It freshens up my breath, and it feels good to know that I'm helping my teeth stay strong and healthy every time I use it. It is a totally effortless way to make sure that I'm taking the best care of my teeth possible. And right now, Loreen Co is offering our listeners up to 50% off at buyloreen.com/justice. That's buy, B-U-Y, Loreen, LARIN.com/justice for up to 50% off. buyloreen.com/justice. For the record, defendants file ineffective assistance claims against their attorneys all the time because procedurally, it's often the only chance they have to keep appellate issues alive. Many times they do so with the explicit blessing of their attorneys, who understand that this is just the way the system works. For this prosecutor, however, it was strangely beyond comprehension. We know this because he expresses his astonishment in his book. That's right, he wrote a book, which has a play-by-play perspective of the lawsuit, but we'll get to that in a minute. Eventually, in 2018, Neely agreed to settle the lawsuit. The settlement meant he had to issue a public apology and send a copy of it to others, including Tammy Mal, pay the plaintiff's court costs, and apparently he had to agree to never work on Patty's case again. As this was all ongoing, Tammy's book about the case, Convenient Suspect, was published in 2018, meaning this guy's sights were then set on her. According to Tammy, he threatened to sue her as well, unless she put in some kind of disclaimer in future publications of the book. She agreed, seeing as how unrelenting he was with Craig Neely. That wasn't it, though. Mr. Prosecutor wasn't yet done with the case. Mind you, over the years, he had also done a ton of media interviews about it. But in 2020, he also published a book about it. Amazingly, he reached out to Tammy and asked if she thought her publisher might be interested in publishing his book, the book of the guy who threatened to sue her, and well, I'll let you imagine her reaction. He went ahead and self-published it anyways, 22 years after he had first prosecuted the case. It is, well, it's interesting. In it, he only changes the name of one single person, his own. Everybody else is identified by their real names. Also, he refers to himself in the third person, which, well, I've published 2 autobiographical books, and take it from this New York Times bestselling author, that is weird. There are just layers of thoughts I have about all of this, but let me break them down into these 3 points. Number 1. There is a former prosecutor in the case who has treated this defendant's right to allege misconduct and Brady as a personally defamatory attack, which sets an incredibly dangerous precedent for any defendant in the post-conviction phase. Number 2, he is personally invested enough to get deeply involved in every attempt in the court and media to get Patty justice and go as far as take or threaten legal action. And number 3, the surveillance notes that Fonda Eggers handed over to the state are clear Brady material. But even though she's never been summoned to court to testify about these, and even though she hasn't been contacted by the defense team in 24 years, she's acting as if she has been harassed all along, or as if she is scared to talk. I did, by the way, respond to the prosecutor's email. I wrote back, "Hello, thank you for reaching out. We certainly would not want to be reporting inaccurate information. I would appreciate it if you could let us know what needs to be corrected. I would like a chance to review and then get back to you. Best, Rabia Chaudhry." I don't think anybody was surprised that I never heard back.
We believe there are many things that point to Patty's innocence, but they all have to be weighed against the DNA evidence. The issue at the heart of the matter then is this: were the hairs collected from the crime scene switched with Patty's exemplars? It's our position that the hair evidence should be wholly thrown out, given it was collected on post-it notes, badly mishandled, contaminated, and mislabeled by Dr. Jensen. This chain of custody has been a matter of dispute for decades. It is unreliable in every sense of the word. But not according to the authorities formally involved in the case, who continue to act as if it's so beyond the pale to suggest that anyone working on the case could do something so egregious as switch the hairs. But let's review some of the things we know they did. We know that Patty's alibi witness, Leroy Rouse, was lied to by a Davidson County detective to prevent him from testifying. We know that someone then lied to Patty's defense counsel and told him that Rouse had a death in the family and couldn't make the trial. We know that Fonda Eggers gave detailed notes with Patty's comings and goings the very week of the murder to that same detective, and those notes then disappeared and have never been produced to the defense. We know that Pennsylvania State Trooper Robert Egan destroyed Walter Trotman's written statement and a picture he drew of the man he saw threatening a woman on the day that Joe disappeared. We know that Egan did not document a single visit by Trotman until the day he was forcibly removed from the barracks, And we know that Egan misrepresented everything possible about Trotman in that single report, not even getting his name right. And we know that nothing about Trotman was ever turned over to the defense. So, what else do we know? We know that when Patty was interviewed in May of 1995, the report of the interview contains a clear lie. It states, quote, "On Monday, 12/12/94, Rorrer admitted that she called Andy at his residence." Now we know this is a lie because Patty has never once admitted to calling Andy on December 12th, 1994. She's always maintained she called over a week before the disappearance, and we know the phone records reflect exactly that. That means the officer who wrote this down in the report deliberately lied that Patty admitted to something that she did not. We also know that the investigation, despite seemingly thorough on the surface, was in fact shoddy. Initially, investigators didn't even take Joe and Alex's disappearances seriously. They left the car in Andy's custody. Andy, who by the way had long blonde hair, sat in the same seat where the investigators collected the hairs, but no one seemed to take that into consideration. Also, investigators blindly landed on the murder weapon being a Jennings revolver after deciding Patty was their suspect because her criminal ex-boyfriend mentioned she once owned a Jennings. Many different weapons fire .22 caliber rounds, but to this day, no one even knows what the murder weapon was because investigators dropped the ball so badly.
I cannot believe that autumn is almost here. And August always feels like the Sunday of summer. And it's the perfect time to hit reset before the autumn rush. Everybody's going back to school. Just everything's picking back up again. For me, that starts with my wardrobe. And Quince proves that you don't need a crowded closet to look incredible. You just need a few beautiful pieces that are right. Quince specializes in effortless, high-quality essentials like ultra-soft organic cotton and premium Mongolian cashmere sweaters. They are beautifully tailored, built to last, and transition seamlessly from morning meetings to dinner. And my favorite part of my closet is my denims. I love denim. And listen, after 40, my denim has to have a little give to it. Well, Quince has premium stretch denim starting at just $50 with the perfect kind of fit, structure, and weight you'd expect from a luxury designer brand and in every single cut you can imagine. Everything at Quince is priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. They work directly with ethical factories and cut out the middlemen, so you're paying for quality, not brand markup. I have spent most of the summer in Quince's Bella Stretch Palazzo jeans. They are so comfortable. They hit my ankle exactly where I want them to. They're not too big and flappy. They're just elegant and timeless. And now for the fall, I'm picking up a couple of their Bella Stretch wide leg jeans, which look incredible with a pair of boots. But they don't have just apparel. Quince also brings that same everyday elevation to everything they offer, from hotel quality bedding and bath to kitchen staples, essentials, and thoughtfully designed furniture. Upgrade your everyday. Download the Quince app for app-exclusive offers or go to quince.com/towardjustice. Get free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada and the UK too. That's QUINCE.com/towardjustice. There is more, too, I promise, much more, like the Katernak neighbor who reported hearing gunshots the night before Joe and Alex disappeared, like the mysterious floral petals found in the sole of Joe's boots at a time and place they didn't belong. There are so many details, so many odds and ends still left to consider in this case that could not be stuffed into this series. But if you're interested, all of that and more is in Tammy Mal's book, Convenient Suspect. Now, the upside of a shoddy investigation and of odds and ends left undone is that it presents the opportunity to find new evidence for future appeals. Yes, overcoming the DNA evidence will not be easy because it will take convincing a court that the authorities were capable of misconduct as egregious as tampering with physical evidence. But I would argue, if they could tamper with witnesses and lie in official documents as mentioned above, well, then they could be capable of tampering with physical evidence too. The thing is that time can be on a defendant's side, because the passage of time can often uncover buried truths, like evidence that's been hidden, a witness you never knew about, a confession recanted from someone racked with guilt, new legal precedent or forensic techniques that are favorable to the defendant, maybe even a new district attorney. We have seen all of this unfold in other cases, sometimes years after we've reported. For that reason and others, we still have hope that there is justice for Patty. And so does she.
Hello. Free call from Patricia. An incarcerated individual at SCI Muncie. This call is not private. It will be recorded and may be monitored. If you believe this should be a private call, please hang up and follow facility instructions to register this number as a private number. To accept this free call, press 1. To refuse the thank you for using Securus. You may start the conversation now.
How have you been? Are you getting any reports from Tammy about the season or anything?
No, I'm doing a lot of legal research, and I guess tomorrow I'm going to talk to Alex and them, the people that are wanting help from Allentown.
Okay. Yeah, we get a lot of emails. They go through our producer, and I feel like we might have gotten an email from somebody in this group, but I do want to connect with them because I have some ideas, and they're not necessarily around them paying for DNA testing. The group I'm referring to is a group of business people in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, who just became involved in the case months ago after seeing the Judges for Justice series on YouTube and also tuning into our coverage. Like many of our listeners, they are riled up and angry over this case, as they should be. Don't forget for a second that the state wanted Patty executed and that she could have been. This group is ready to work, and we aren't going anywhere either. I already shared the ideas I have with them, but it's best not to show our hand publicly for now. When the time comes, I'll tell you, I promise. For now, though, it's time to plan what's next in the courts for Patty. She has exhausted her recent appeals all the way up to the Supreme Court in Pennsylvania, which means she can now get back into federal court. As is completely on brand, by the way, that same unnamed prosecutor who wrote the book in the third person, that same guy who characterized Patty's attempts to establish her alibis as attempts to fish for alibis, well, in his book, he had the gall to complain that, quote, Craig Neely had threatened to bring a federal criminal case on behalf of Patty. Why, it has to be asked, is Patty going to federal court a threat? Who is it a threat to? That is her right. Anyhow, the threat was carried out when Patty filed a habeas petition in 2019, and that petition has been pending and on hold after the federal court granted a broad discovery request that had to be litigated back in state court. Now that she's done in state court, she can pick back up at the federal level. I personally think that is where she will have her best shot, especially given that the record in Pennsylvania appellate courts are marred with inaccuracies about the forensic testing. The federal court, in fact, previously ordered discovery of hundreds of pages of lab reports, showing already that they believe there is merit in Patty's claims.
Well, even the fact that we only had 22 pages when I filed the FOIA, then Tammy filed the FOIA to get more stuff, and she got 300 pages. Now, we're filing to the same lab. Then the federal judge has given them everything. We know there's 1,935 pages. We only got 1,500. So there's still more reports we never got, and we never got the state lab reports because they do not want to admit that hair went back in there and they had the opportunity to switch it.
All right.
They will not release them. So Tammy got 1,500 pages, started going through them, and we found like versions of reports, whether it be 3 versions of one report. And there should only be one, because when we put the prosecutor on the stand, we said, well, which version did she get for trial? And he couldn't tell us. Did she get the blank one that just has the basic information, or the one where you wrote a little more on it, or the one that has a whole bunch of writing? He said, I don't know. And that's also where we got the note RRX, is in that last FOIA, the Freedom of Information request. So that led us into this appeal. So I had to put the federal appeal we have on what's called stay. It just sits there. Because you have to go back through this state court again and then make them say, basically where they're wrong, which they're never going to do on a case like this.
In other words, there are hundreds of missing pages of lab reports still, and who knows what they contain and why they won't hand them over. Maybe because those pages could break this case wide open for Patty. When Patty gets back in federal court now, though, she'll be armed with even more evidence. The doctor does in a note that the hairs collected from the crime scene were not chemically treated. This note was discovered after she was routed back to state court, and the federal circuit court hasn't even seen it. I have a feeling the state of Pennsylvania and everyone involved is going to get thoroughly humiliated in federal court, as hard as they have been fighting it.
I think a lot of it is the implications of this case, because it's the first mitochondrial case, I believe, in the country to get convicted. I'm the first in the state to be arrested. So overturning this can do a lot of damage. And when you have contaminated hair from the door, collected on Post-it, it was sat on, it was collected on Post-it notes, it was handled with bare hands. It was contaminated from the door. And then we wonder if that man, because he contaminated, he was an expert in the state lab, did he switch the hairs thinking he was saving the case, not realizing he was convicting an innocent person? We don't know. But it's leading back that direction.
I mean, he had to know. He could switch hair out, but if he was just trying to save the case, it could be because, it would make sense if he switched it out with other hair collected from the crime scene, not hair collected from you.
Well, in his mind, he might have thought, well, I got a capital case, and I got somebody that they know did it, and I'm trying to put myself in his mindset instead of being angry at him. And they never counted my hairs, so for him to just replace the hairs he touched with new hairs, because Selmar never got his DNA off the hairs that they did out there. So something's wrong.
Yeah, that can't be the original hair they collected. So Patty raises a point that I know I've thought about a million times in this and other cases. Why do the authorities do what they did? Why did they suppress witnesses, tamper with evidence? Is it malicious and they are trying to frame somebody they think is innocent? Or are they well-intended and think it's okay to bend the rules because they truly believe a suspect is guilty? Except it's not okay. It's never okay. If you cannot win by the rules, then don't play the game. Don't bring the charges. Do not subvert the constitutional due process rights of a defendant, whether or not you think they're guilty. In this case, wherever you stand on Patty's guilt, you cannot argue that the system has been fair to her. So much has been unfair to her, starting with what Andy put her through.
Well, when I started seeing him, you got to keep in mind, I was 20 years old. He checked my ID because he didn't believe I was that young. He introduced me to wines and French restaurants and was wining and dining me. And, I'd come out of a very abusive relationship with my husband. To the point of a fractured chest plate and a gun at my head. So this man was like a Prince Charming, is the only way to put it. And I didn't know he was putting everything on a credit card. That happened after I moved in, and I went to buy a house. I bought my car first, and then I went to buy a house. And my banker said, you can buy anything you want, but you can't put them on the loan. That is when I found out he owed the IRS. And I don't know how this happened, because he does good work. He's a construction guy, and he does good work. And apparently that hasn't changed right up to the time of his marriage with Joanne. He still cannot have a bank account. That's why he put the phone in my name, even though he admitted I told him not to, because he couldn't get credit. He was using my credit like 5 years after I wasn't with him, which was crazy. He had no bank account. It all went under her. He had money, I guess, hid in his house or something, they said. He just never got out of the IRS debt. We got to a point where we were living in separate bedrooms for over a year, and I started seeing somebody else. And finally, that person asked me just to go back to Carolina. And by then I wrecked a car, a brand new leased car, because I missed a deer and hit a tree. And I found out the money it wasn't a check, I'm sorry. The money I gave Andy to pay the insurance on the car, he hadn't done. Because when I called the insurance company, he said I had a problem. I missed a deer and I hit a tree. He said, you have another problem. You don't have any insurance that lapsed. So I said, I can't. It's a lease. I gave And I hung up the phone thinking, I know where it is. I took my boyfriend's car, drove down to the house, which he begged me to let him stay there because he didn't want to move back with his parents. So he's 40-some years old. He said he didn't want, just let him stay there. He'd keep the mortgage. I'd keep the mortgage in North Carolina because I'd bought a second home by now under my name. Well, when I got down there and asked him about it, he said he was trying to make it up, get everything caught up. The bank finally found me and said, well, you're 4 months behind on your house also. So I lost a $35,000 car in a house that I could not catch up because now I don't have a car to sell real estate. And that's when my boyfriend said, let's just go home. Let's move you home to North Carolina. So I left and let the bank have the house. He tried to buy it out from under me with his dad. I said, no. I had so much of my personal money in that house. I said, no, I'd rather lose it because you did this.
Given all this, it's hard to understand why she still kept in touch with him.
That's why he testified to this too. He started sending me cards and he started sending me letters, and he never did this before. And after, I think it was a Halloween, a Christmas, a Thanksgiving card, a birthday card, finally wrote him back. I said, what's next? The damn, St. Patrick's Day card? And he wrote me, he said, here it is, please call me. And he gave me a phone number. And he admitted all this. He just kept going. And I'm a forgiving person, I guess, and that's a downfall, but I don't want that to change in me. And he talked to me about it, and, he was sorry and everything. By now, it was over. I couldn't go back and fix that. I just had to rebuild my own credit. And he asked to come to Carolina. He picked up a saw the first time that my boyfriend stole from him, to be real honest, out of the house when we got my stuff. He stayed for, I think, 2 weeks, a little less. Then he came down again. He asked me if we could try again, and I said, I'm not coming to Pennsylvania. So he came to North Carolina, and he stayed for a month. And at the end of the month, when he drove off, I knew, because he said the one statement he always said, I have one more job to finish. And that's what ruined us from the door. There's always one more job before we could go home to see my mom, or one more job before we could take a vacation. And when he drove off, I wrote him, I said, we can stay friends, but this is not going to work. And he told me in a letter, he said, I knew as soon as I drove out. He said, I seen it in your face. You didn't want this to go any farther. And we just tried to remain friends. He said it on the stand that I never tried to rebuild this relationship. I never encouraged him to come back or me come up here. The relationship was done.
Except that it wasn't, not completely. Patty did reach out every so often and vice versa to check in on her old friend. I can only imagine the regret she has now about that. So I asked her if there was anything she would have done differently if she could go back 34 years.
The biggest thing I would have done different from the door is when my mom told me not to call Andy back. I should have called him, and he would have been my alibi witness. And just to not believe that the system works. I went to court on a capital case in 8 months, and I thought it was taking forever because I'd never been in trouble like
You have 1 minute left.
I should have been there over 2 years,
Right.
and I should have pushed my lawyers harder. So I really want to thank the people that are reaching out or that are listening and that are supporting me, and to be honest, even the ones that aren't, because the questions they bring up, we can actually answer for anybody out there. But if there are people that want to support, I'm going to try to get permission from the gentleman and his fiancée to see if they want to do a fund me kind of thing to help raise more money for this attorney. We can't necessarily set up a GoFundMe because the prosecutor attacks it, but they can't.
Why does a prosecutor attack it? What do you mean?
He'll call and have it pulled off, make him pull it off, any kind of GoFundMe on the case.
Now, I don't know for sure if this is true or not because it's kind of a he said, she said, but allegedly that's what happened. However, rest assured that if and when a crowdsourced fund is set up for Patty going forward, we will be sharing it and we will be keeping a close eye on it to make sure no one is able to shut it down. That will be one way you can all support Patty. And until then, you can also join the free Patricia Rorrer group on Facebook.
Now that the website is still up, the Facebook is still up. And the victims, this is funny for everybody here too, the victim's former best friend and sister-in-law runs the Facebook that says Free Patricia Rorrer.
Team Patty, as you can see, goes far, wide, and deep. And with this season, it's grown even further. I let Patty know how we operate.
We are going to be here. We don't, when we are done with the season, we don't just like wrap up a season and we're not just reporting and walk away. Like, I continue to go to appellate hearings. We continue to raise money. We continue to make noise. This is what my audience does. This is what we're good at. Once we take on a case, we are here, Patty, until you're home.
Okay, Alex?
I don't say that lightly, by the way. I feel good about what's coming. I feel good about what is yet to be revealed in Patty's case. I have hope, and this is why Patty has hope.
I don't have a choice. I'm a strong faith, and there has to be a reason for why it happened. In every appeal, we find something else. So I keep thinking, like, each time we go to court, it's going to work, it's going to work. If I give up, I'm going to wind up in the unit over there that we call it, it's a Newman unit with people that have, like, mental issues. So if I give up, I'm going to wind up over there. I can't give up. You know, you don't have a choice but to keep pushing. A lot of the people in here, they say it. They come to me for legal help, and they're like, because we know you fight, like you're fighting.
Patty has been incarcerated at the State Correctional Institution in Muncie, Pennsylvania for 29 years. She's about to graduate and get her cosmetology license soon, a license that will let her work even outside of prison as a cosmetologist anywhere in Pennsylvania after she's released. She's kept busy working various jobs over the years, from secretarial work to working in the infirmary and helping other incarcerated women with their legal cases. She has done her best to live a fulfilling life, even as she lost her family one by one, and even though she has no contact with her daughter.
I haven't seen her since she's 5, other than in pictures. Like you, I know I have a granddaughter out there because I've seen the picture. And one day I hope that she listens to someone like you. And I wouldn't care if she come at me because she was mad or angry. I wish one day she'd come talk to me. But I'm not. I promised her in an email. I wrote her a 2-page email, and somebody forwarded it to her. I promised her I wouldn't bother her, and I wouldn't do anything more unless I heard from her. So I'm going to keep my word. She's happy. She's beautiful. Her husband looks. They look so happy together in the pictures I see. So I don't know what she's been told by her stepmother or by people down there. I don't know. I know her dad is an alibi witness, so it's going to hit her, and I don't want to destroy her life. She's happy. That's part of a mother's love, is knowing when you have to let go, but she'll always be that, part of my heart.
Patty sent that email 5 years ago and never heard back. But in our line of work, miracles happen every day. The last thing I want to say as I close out this season is to repeat how I ended episode 10, that every exoneration I have ever witnessed had the same thing in common, that there is at least one person on the outside that didn't give up. In this case, there is more than one person who's in it for the long haul. And as for the folks involved 34 years ago that are still fighting to keep Patty in prison, well, it's a bad look for them. And it is a bad look for the elected officials currently in charge of handling the appeal on behalf of the state of Pennsylvania. Speaking of which, Lehigh Valley residents, keep an eye on those elected officials and know that the next election for district attorney is in 2027. We will continue to report on Patty's case. We will post all the ways you can support her. And now that the season is over, we have another season to prepare for and many other stories to tell you. Next time on Undisclosed. As we all know, there is always more to the story. So tune in every Thursday during this entire season where we're going to be dropping our addendum episodes. In those episodes, we will go deeper on some of the issues raised in that week's episode, and we're going to answer listener questions. And if you want even more undisclosed content, remember you can become a patron by signing up at patreon.com/undisclosedpod. And if you've got feedback for us, you can find us at speakpipe.com/undisclosed, where you can leave us an actual voice note. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Undisclosed Pod. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Undisclosed Pod. And we've got our own little private Facebook group called the Toward Justice Community. All you gotta do is answer 3 quick questions and I will let you in. You can follow me, Rabia, on Instagram at Rabia2, the number 2, and you can follow Colin at EvidenceProf on X and Blue Sky. Follow the podcast on X at Undisclosed Pod. We want to thank our sponsors, and I want to thank our intrepid team, our sound editor, Hannah McCarthy, our executive producer, Mithil Thelhan, and my amazing investigator, Jennifer Leahy. And a very special thank you to true crime author and advocate Tammy Mall, who made this season possible. Thank you, Tammy, for all your work.